Country Thunder underway in Florence right now, but an assault at last year's Music Fest is raising questions about a possible cover-up. 2 officers surviving a life-and-death struggle, but their attacker is walking free. For the first time, they're talking to ABC 15 investigator Dave Biscobing.
Yeah, they discuss the attack and what they call ultimate betrayal by others wearing a police badge.
Every spring, tens of thousands flood the town of Florence. At Country Thunder, it's 4 days of music and one big party. But last April, for 2 cops, it was a matter of life and death.
The absolute closest that I came to taking the life of another human being.
What happened landed these officers in the hospital, raised questions about a police cover-up, and could put taxpayers on the hook for millions in lawsuits.
It's gone too far.
It's changed too much of our lives.
DPS officer Hugh Grant is a 25-year veteran, and Detective Andrew Good has 7 years with the Pinal County Sheriff's Office. They both patrolled the event in plain clothes.
Looking for underage drinkers at the event.
And came across this campsite.
Screaming and hooting and hollering.
A campsite called, well, we'll say breasts and beer, complete with this banner showing a topless woman. The officers say they spotted 3 women standing on top of this platform.
Basically, she just lifted up her shirt, exposed her breasts. You know, families, young kids walking by, it's a sexual offense.
Officer Grant says he put the woman who flashed in handcuffs. Seconds later, her husband attacked.
I got hit from behind.
I just watched as he jumped on his back, and I watched one arm wrap around his neck, the other one around the chest, and then all 3 of them went down to the ground.
I had absolutely no thought of anything other than this guy is going to choke me to death. So I withdrew my weapon.
Pictures obtained by the ABC 15 investigator showed the suspect, Officer Grant, and his gun covered in mud. Both officers were hurt in the struggle.
Concussion, a strained back and a strained neck.
I fractured my leg and I had severed the ACL and I had 5 blood clots.
Because of their injuries, other Pinal County Sheriff's deputies handled the arrest.
At this point, did you think everything's going to be all right, everything's being taken care of?
Absolutely.
And did that change?
Dramatically.
The suspect, Ronald James Keys, was charged with aggravated assault on a police officer, obstruction, and resisting arrest.
But unlike most people charged with such serious crimes, Ronald Keys was released within just 3 hours. Then he was driven back here to the scene of the crime by sheriff's deputies so he could enjoy the rest of the concert. Meanwhile, Detective Andrew Good was still in the hospital. Do you feel like there was a cover-up attempt here?
We probably wouldn't be sitting here today if that weren't true.
Charges against Ronald Keys were dropped. Prosecutors say they had no choice because of how the investigation was handled. We reviewed the case and found police reports were written months later because of inadequate documentation. Investigators failed to seek out eyewitnesses at the scene. And this email from Sheriff Paul Babu's Special Assistant Lieutenant Blake King, who hours after the assault wrote to prosecutors. Unfortunately, the subject had been fingerprinted before I could get him released. Police attempt to have his record of this cleared.
Nobody is that far above the law.
This says everything. This says sweep under the rug. It says delete it.
Never happened. Make it go away.
I've never seen a request like this from a law enforcement officer.
Attorney Kurt Altman is a former FBI agent and federal prosecutor. We asked him to review the case.
There appears to have been an assault on a police officer here. I certainly would have expected a much more in-depth investigation.
The ABC 15 investigators discovered Ronald Keys is the son of 2 retired Tucson police officers. And we also found that campsite has been rented by off-duty Tucson officers for years, and documents refer to them as friends of Pinal County deputies.
Obviously, there was a relationship here. Friends do not investigate friends.
The case stalled. Pinal County investigators labeled it a bad arrest, saying Grant and Good never identified themselves.
And you displayed your badges.
Our badges were in plain sight.
Yes, they did both have them out.
Heather Sizik was an eyewitness but was never interviewed at the scene. She says it was obvious they were officers.
She was in handcuffs, and their badges were out.
I held it up over my head, Arizona DPS.
Police officers injured in the line of duty are usually honored, but in this case, these 2 lawmen feel betrayed by their own.
The fact is that this investigation was handled wrong from day one, and it's yet to be corrected.
The 2 officers filed their lawsuit here at the Pinal County Superior Court just this week. They accused the Sheriff's Office of defamation, racketeering, and violating their victims' rights. The Sheriff's Office would not answer our questions on camera, but in a written statement, a sheriff's spokesman called what happened an alleged assault and said they fully investigated before turning it over to the county attorney. In Florence, I'm investigator Dave Biscobing, ABC 15 News.